There are truths a man only learns after miles of hard country and long nights under a silent sky. A fella can hear his own heartbeat out there, and sometimes that's the Lord whispering to his spirit, calling him to square up, look inward, and deal honest with what's been gnawing at his soul. The old Bible calls it vexing, that inward trouble that grinds a man down like a wet rope over a sharp stone. Lot knew something about that. Scripture says he vexed his righteous soul in seeing and hearing the wickedness around him. 2 Peter 2:8. It wasn't a chosen thing. It was forced on him, like riding through a bad town you never meant to bed down in. The evil of others pressed on him till his spirit felt worn thin. Many a good man knows the feeling. You live long enough in this world, you'll carry the dust and noise of it in your soul if you don't watch yourself close. But there's a different road a man can take, one that doesn't just accept the world's blows, but chastens the inward life. Now, chastening ain't a word most folks think kindly of. In the tongue of 1611, it meant to correct, to purify, to discipline. A father's hand, not a hangman's. That book says plain, "For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth." Hebrews 12:6. That correction isn't born of anger, but care. Stern, steady, and clean as a north wind cutting through the timber. It's the sort of mercy God shows to children he refuses to lose. David understood the difference. He wasn't a stranger to trouble or to his own failings. He knew the weight a man carries when left alone with himself. So when he needed to bring his heart back into line, he didn't wait for the Lord to rope him in by force. He stepped out and chastened his own soul. He said, "I humbled my soul with fasting," Psalm 35:13. And again, "When I wept and chastened my soul with fasting," Psalm 69:10. That wasn't self-punishment, no more than a cowboy cinching his saddle tighter before crossing a bad ridge. It was discipline. It was the hard work of keeping the inner man straight when the trail grows crooked. Any soul worth having needs that from time to time. A fellow who never chastens himself grows loose inside, soft where he ought to be steady, stubborn where he ought to be humble. That kind of man will meet God's chastening the long way round, and it won't be light on him. The book warns, "He that being often reproved hardeneth his neck shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy." Proverbs 29:1. A man who won't bow his head when he ought to will break it before long. And if he dodges the Lord's gentle hand, he just may meet the heavier one. That's a trail no wise rider chooses. But a man who learns to humble himself, to quiet his thoughts, to bridle his appetites, to lay himself low before the Almighty, such a man finds the Lord's correction not a burden, but a guidepost. The Scripture says God's chastening yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness. Hebrews 12:11. That's the harvest every true-hearted believer aims for. Peace in the saddle, rightness in the soul, and the sure knowledge that God has shaped him straighter than he ever could have shaped himself. So a man ought to pay heed to what's vexing him, whether it's the world pressing in or his own heart drifting off the true line. And when he finds the trouble, he ought to chasten his soul like David did, sober, humble, earnest, before the Lord has to do it for him. There's no shame in that, only sense. A wise rider minds his horse, minds his gear, and above all, minds his soul. For out on the long trail of life, it's the heart of a man that carries him farther than his legs ever will.